everyone, this is OCD Live. I'm Ali Grayman. We're going to be answering some questions about OCD. If you haven't subscribed to this channel, please subscribe. If you have a question that you would like me to answer on the next show, please leave it below any of the videos and let's get started. Before we start, I just wanted to let you know that I missed last week's show. So some of the questions are going to be from last week and then some of the questions are going to be from this week. So there's going to be a lot more questions. I'm going to try to move through them as fast as I can just to get everybody in. And it's just because I've been really busy with clients. So let's get started. The first question I have is, Ali, why do I sometimes purposefully think thoughts that I don't want to think about, especially when it is not to test myself or reassure myself? And again, this is an OCD question. You're trying to figure out something, and the more you're trying to figure out, the more you get into it. This is all OCD. You don't need to figure it out. You don't need to think deeply about it. This is OCD. Just let it go. Who cares why these thoughts are coming in? Because you have OCD. That is the only reason why they're coming in. But if you're trying to figure out, am I a bad person? Why would I think this and all of this? You're feeding OCD further. So not doing that, saying, this is OCD, who cares? I'm not trying to solve anything anymore. And the more you do this, the weaker these thoughts are going to become and the less they're going to come into your mind, because there's no actual reason for them to be in your mind other than the OCD. So as soon as you stop feeding OCD, these thoughts are going to start dropping in anxiety. And it doesn't mean that they're instantly going to go away, but the anxiety is going to start to drop significantly. And I would say week to week, not day to day, but week to week, you will see less and less anxiety towards these things. So the next question I have is, Ali, I do a good job of staying confident and keeping my thoughts at bay when I feel like there is something around to keep me from acting. But when the person or thing that I need to be close to is gone, I can't stop obsessing and thinking the worst is going to happen. Well, the reason why that happens is because basically when somebody is around, you have almost like a built-in reassurance that everything is going to be okay. When they're not around, it's an exposure. So you have to view it as an exposure and response prevention exercise. So you have the exposure, you're refusing the response of fear. When you refuse the response of fear, your brain learns that this situation is no longer important. And when it does that, it's going to send you less thoughts in the future. So don't view it as something negative and something that, well, no, I always have to be around somebody because what if I'm not, then something bad is going to happen. No, it's good that you're facing the situation, but facing it and refusing the reaction of fear. This is normal situation. There's nothing here to fear. So refusing to view it that way, refusing to fall into the OCD trap. But you do have to face it in a way, because if you're always avoiding everything, and because you're not avoiding anything that's out of normal, out of normal behavior. You're avoiding regular everyday life situations. But the more you avoid it, the more you show your mind that this regular everyday life situation is actually something very dangerous. And that's how your mind starts to view it. And that's why it sends you thoughts whenever you are alone, right? So it's fine if you're alone, viewing it as exercise and preparing yourself before. So saying before you were actually alone, right? Saying, okay, I'm going to be like talking to your mind like that, kind of giving it a pep talk, so to speak, right? So you're saying, I'm going to be in a situation where I'm going to be by myself. The thoughts are going to come up. It's going to be painful, but I'm still going to refuse to react. When I refuse to react, next time it's going to be better. So you're preparing yourself for it, because if you prepare yourself for it, once the thoughts come in, you're like, oh, I was expecting it. I'm not going to react now. So you're in a much more of an advantage that way, rather than if you're surprised by the thoughts. But this is just exposure. Exposure is not bad. So the next question, actually it's not a question, it's more of a comment. It's true, no one understands this condition OCD like someone with OCD. My doctor knows a little here and there, but not understanding like I have because of my experience. And this is the thing that, in order to recover, you need to become an expert in your disorder. The only thing is, when you're researching OCD, don't do it compulsively, because there is a common OCD theme where you start to worry about conflicting research and things like that, because on the internet, as you know, anybody can write or say anything, and you can get triggered by it. And again, if you do get triggered, viewing it as exposure. That, okay, it's triggering me, I'm getting anxious, it's an exposure, I need to refuse the response of fear. So if you have like a response of what if I'm doing something wrong, what if I won't recover because I'm not following the right method or something like that, that's a common OCD theme. So not reacting, but at the same time, you do need to become an expert at your disorder, because you need to know how OCD works in order to beat it, basically. Like viewing it like an opponent, that you need to understand your opponent in order to win the match. And I do find, I talk to clients every day, right? And I do find that there's not a lot of help out there with people who truly know what they're talking about, because it's, unless you've experienced it, you don't know. It's hard. It really is. So next question I have, and again, this is not so much OCD related, but I think it's important to address it, is just a quick non-OCD question. When do you upload your videos? Was it published on March 7th? This is from last week. And if I understand, you recorded the show on the same day. Thank you, you're great. Oh, that's very nice, thank you. And I try to upload every Wednesday. Most of the time it works out, sometimes it doesn't work out, and again, it just depends on my schedule that week. Some weeks I'm less busy, some weeks I'm just crazy busy and I can't, right? So it really does depend on that, but I try to do my best to record it. If I don't record it on Wednesday, I still have your questions, so I'm still going through as many questions as I possibly can. Also, to go along with that question, people are asking how you can contact me to start the recovery program. You can sign up on the website youhaveocd.com, and you can contact me via info@youhaveocd.com to begin the program. So next question I have is, hi Ali, I've been dealing with HOCD thoughts and it's really scaring me. I feel like my brain keeps throwing things up to me from the past to try and prove that the fears are true. Is this a common part of OCD where the brain makes associations from your memories and so on? Thank you. So yes, it is very, very common because your mind is trying to scan for anything possible that has to do with what you're scared of. So if your theme is HOCD, it's going to try to scan everything that it possibly can in your life, from the past, fears about the future, a movie you watched, a dream you've had, anything at all related to HOCD, it's going to bring up. So again, and when it brings it up, it's exposure. Exposure and response prevention. If you refuse to react to any thought that has to do with HOCD, eventually it will stop sending them to you. But it's just every time, day in and day out, if it sends you a million thoughts a day on HOCD, a million times you have to refuse. It's a repetition thing. So the next question I have is, Ali, how can you protect your mind from unwanted thoughts? I mean, even if you get an unwanted thought, how can you keep your mind at peace? I feel so bad and miserable when my mind is not at peace. And that is when I do compulsive behavior to make myself comfortable. But then again, I know that doing compulsion is not the thing I should do, so I feel bad about it. Yeah, so the only way you can protect your mind from unwanted thoughts is by not reacting in the present moment. So you're refusing reaction in the present moment to protect your mind in the future from sending these thoughts. Because you're saying to your mind, and this is very important, you're saying to your mind that they are not only unwanted, but they're irrelevant. When you're saying to your mind that the thoughts are just scary and unwanted, your mind says, well, why are they scary to you? Are you in danger? Let me send you more thoughts. But if you're saying to your mind, through your action of refusing to pay attention, that these thoughts are irrelevant, right? Then your mind says, okay, they're irrelevant. Why would I send you irrelevant thoughts? It's not wired to send you irrelevant thoughts. And the only thing that makes it relevant is you paying attention to it, right? So you take that attention away, it's going to stop sending you those thoughts. So in the future, even when you're faced with a situation that can trigger OCD for you, your particular theme, so say you watch a movie and it brings up the particular theme that you have, you're not going to get triggered by it because the brain has lost that connection with this particular thought, with this particular fear. So that's how you protect your mind from unwanted thoughts. Solving and going thought to thought, as you know, doing compulsions makes the whole situation worse. So the next question I have is, my problem is to feel right about moving forward and act according to values, but my compulsions always gets in my way and makes me miserable after doing it over and over. Now the big problem I'm facing is that I also have to feel right before giving up those compulsions, but it never happens no matter what. But I do feel right about my compulsions, but temporary and but temporarily, and then my anxiety makes me do it again. Is it because of self-reassurance? I know it's bad, but my mind automatically wants to seek self-reassurance to accept the thoughts, and it's also hard to avoid it. What can I do? And what you can do is just doing the best you can. So not going along with the OCD game of, well, I have to feel right before moving on, because when you're doing that, you're not recovering. You're making yourself worse. So every time you're doing a compulsion, it's a step back in recovery. It's a small step back because it's just one, right? But it's still not a step forward. You're showing now to your mind that this is important to you, and it makes it worse. So you have to get back on the path to recovery, and as much as you can, refuse. It might not be every time, but as much as you can, and working on it every day, treating it like work. So every day, every moment of the day you get a thought, every moment of the day you're choosing not to react as much as you possibly can. So the next question I have is, how do I accept the ugly thoughts and not to do the compulsions? You accept them as being part of OCD. Yes, this thought is disturbing. Yes, this thought is in my mind. Yes, this thought is a part of OCD. And yes, the thought is going to go away when I stop having OCD. So who cares if you have this thought, if it's going to go away, if it's just a symptom? Yes, it's ugly. It doesn't matter. It's just a symptom of OCD. It's just the same way as saying, well, it's really uncomfortable when I have sore throat when I'm sick. Well, you're sick and you have sore throat. It's not a permanent condition. It's going to go away. So not putting meaning to it, not putting value to it, that it must mean something if I have this horrible, horrible thought or image or whatever. It means absolutely nothing. It means that you have OCD, so who cares if it's in your mind? It's going to go away. You have to focus on the recovery work. The more you focus on the recovery, the more you focus on ignoring the thoughts, the faster you're going to be gone through this. So next question I have is, I read a few books about OCD. They say it's not 100% treatable. Is it true? Well, this is the thing, is everybody can say anything in their book. I speak from my own experience and from experience of talking to many, 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 many people. Many people about OCD, right? So because, I talk to clients every single day. So, and I actually work on the weekends now as well, actually, for those people who wanted to book the recovery program. I do weekends as well, weekends and evenings. But, it depends on that specific person, what they think and what they wrote. Saying 100% treatable means that 100% of people recover from OCD. That is not true. If the person is not doing the work, if the person cannot stop seeking the reassurance, they can't refuse at all, not just sometimes, but at all, right? And can't move at all on the road to recovery, then they won't recover at this point, obviously, right? So saying 100% treatable, no. Do 100% of my clients recover? No. I would say that about 80% of people who I talk to recover. So, but there's people still that don't, and it's not that they never will, it's just that at this particular time they're not ready, they don't have enough strength to do it, and the program really helps people to gain that strength, because it's pushing through, and reacting less and less. But it's, for some people, it's just, even that is not enough, so, and it doesn't mean that they'll never recover. It just means at this particular time, maybe they're just not ready. Maybe they're too stressed. Maybe they're too busy. Maybe their anxiety is high, and this is just the first step in their recovery, right? So there's a lot of factors to it. So to say, 100%, that's hard to say. But I would say that with my program, I see about 80% of people recovering, but unless you stop doing compulsions at least a little bit, you won't recover, So the program helps support you and push you the right way and keep you afloat when you are anxious and doing the compulsions. But it's, you still have to do the work. And that's what, whenever anybody emails me about starting the program, I always say, you have to be determined to do the work. I can push you the rest of the way, but the desire has to come from you. You have to be ready for it, because it does require work, not in terms of time, but in terms of being determined to keep going, to keep moving forward. So going back to the question about being 100% treatable, what I'm taking it to mean is that um, not 100% of people recover, but there is a large number of people that do recover. Like I said, with my program, it's about 80%. Without the program, I don't know. I don't have those numbers, right? But a large number of people do recover when they're putting in the work. You can be in that group. The choice is yours, but you have to do the work. It doesn't just happen. And if you're doing compulsions, wondering why you're not better, it's because you're doing compulsions. And you have to refuse. You might not be able to refuse all the compulsions, but a great number of them you have to refuse. So next question I have is, Ali, I keep falling for OCD traps and I keep having new obsession. I feel like this will never stop. Also, when I go work out and I'm running on the treadmill, I feel weird sensations, and the person's saying that they feel like they have to do compulsions and they feel very uncomfortable, can't stop. So again, not falling into the trap. So before you even go to the gym, saying, okay, I'm gonna get these feeling like I need to do these compulsions. I'm gonna get these weird feelings. I'm not gonna react to it. These are all part of my OCD. They're all part of my theme. I don't have to react to it. I'm not going to react to it. And then when you're actually there and you're facing these situations, oh yeah, here it is. I was expecting it. It's fine. I don't care. So you're prepared. This is an exposure. You're prepared to do the work. You're refusing the response of fear. Then the next time you go to the gym after that, it's going to be easier because last time you refused. And then after a few times, it won't be even an issue anymore. So the next question I have is, I'm feeling very good for the last 3 months or so. For the first month in recovery, I saw myself in progress. But this last month, I don't seem neither progress nor regress. I am stuck in the same place. I never felt better. A thought comes now and then, but only for a second and then goes away. So my question is, does this mean I'm fully healed? Does this stay like this forever, or is this just temporary? So am I going to see any more progress, or am I doing something wrong? So, okay. You are progressing really good in your recovery, and you understand that these thoughts are not important. However, your mind is still not fully convinced, because before you were telling your mind that they were important by reacting, right? So that's why every once in a while you're still getting a thought. This will stop. This is just part of the process of your mind letting go, and that connection between fear and that specific theme is weakening, but it's not gone. So it's going to continue to weaken more and more, and you will see these thoughts come in less and less often with less and less anxiety. You are definitely on the right track. You moved through it pretty fast, and which is good for you, because obviously the faster you can recover, the better. But your mind is right now trying to catch up to your recovery. So that's all that's happening. It's very normal. It's all part of the recovery process. So just keep going with it. It will fix on its own. You don't need to do anything for it. Just keep on this path. Keep not paying attention, because if these thoughts come from time to time and you start paying attention to these thoughts when they come from time to time, you're going to go right back to reacting. So you're definitely not healed yet. You're still in the process. And even after they stop coming in, you have to make sure that if another thought that's similar comes in, especially if you're going through something stressful in your life and you get these odd thoughts and you feel like you're starting to get obsessed, you really have to make sure you refuse, because it's not set in stone at that point yet, because you need at least a year of completely OCD free to feel confident that you're OCD free. So it's a process. You have to kind of be cautious with it, but you're definitely very close to recovery and very much on the right track. So another question is, how do you deal with confessing bad things that have already happened but you haven't addressed it yet with the individuals involved? Is it better to get closure or move on? I also want to know how to deal with being so distracted that you cannot focus on things you're doing, so you feel the need to do them over again. If you don't remember doing it, should you go back and redo it? It is hard to focus with OCD, and that further fuels my compulsions to do it over. So the first thing is confessing the things that already happened but you haven't addressed with the individuals involved. I would say confessing is always bad when it comes to anything to do with OCD. So if it feels like this can possibly be OCD for you, then I would not do the confessing, because what's going to happen is you will confess it, then you'll feel momentary relief, then you'll feel, well, you know what, I forgot a detail, or I didn't say it just right, I have to redo it, and it's just going to start a compulsion basically. So with not remembering and not being able to focus, so you have to do things over again. If you don't remember and you do something over once, specifically because you don't remember, that's okay. But if you feel like you have to do it because what if you don't do it and something bad is going to happen, that sounds more like OCD than just you were distracted, because people do things multiple times. People who don't have OCD do things multiple times when they don't remember, right? That's normal. But if you're doing it because of fear, if fear is driving your actions, then you shouldn't do it. And that goes the same with confessing and with redoing. If it's fear-based, don't do it. If it's not fear-based and you just feel it would be morally right to say something, or if you feel like, you just don't remember if you did it or not, but it's not giving you anxiety, then you can do it. But if I were you, I would really stay away from the confessing, because it's just a very slippery slope when it comes to OCD. And I've never really seen people want to confess who have OCD, but the confession is not about OCD, you know? Do you know what I'm saying? So it's if you're already asking, because you're asking me about it, right? Like the show is about OCD. So if you're asking me about it, it seems like you're already kind of viewing it that as possibly being OCD. And if you're possibly even questioning something as being OCD, then it means that it is OCD. So the next question I have is, can you talk more about recovery? I find that once I get myself into a routine, I feel great, only that it doesn't last long. I find that I slip into bad habits of unhealthy comfort eating and alcohol, which makes my OCD worse, but I still continue to do it and I'm upset with my will to do so. So again, it's the more you can do each day. Don't look at it as a big picture of what I'm doing, but look at it more as what am I doing right now? Am I paying attention to the thoughts? If I'm comfort eating, why am I doing that? Is it because I'm having an OCD thought and this is my reaction to it? Because that is still a negative reaction. It might not be outright reassurance, but you're still trying to neutralize the thought, and there's no need to neutralize it. So instead, facing it head on and saying, okay, yeah, this is the thought. It can be, extremely scary, extremely uncomfortable, but I'm not going to react. And the more you're choosing not to react, the more you start to move on from it. And it's just doing it that way. So the further you get in the recovery, the better you will feel, obviously. So, and the routine does help, and if you fall out of the routine, then get back to it. Nobody's perfect and you will have those moments, but the more you patrol yourself, the more you pay attention to what you're doing and why you're doing it, the faster you will get through it, and the further you will get in terms of feeling better. Next question I have is, how come I can go for days feeling great, not obsessing, feeling happy, and then sometimes for a few days I get stuck and I can't do anything to quit obsessing? It's just you've fallen into the trap of OCD. So just getting yourself out of it, refusing the reaction. So you reacted for a while, you refused the reaction for a while, you did great, then you've fallen into it. Fine, it happens. And again, that's that 80-20 average, that 80% of the time you're doing good, but 20% of the time you failed. So what? It doesn't matter. Progressing in your recovery. Because if 80% of the time you're saying to your mind that this thought doesn't matter, that it's still going to continue to drop in energy, to drop in anxiety. And the more it drops, the easier it will be for you to refuse and to get to that 90% and then eventually to that 100%. And then the thoughts are going to go away. Next question I have is too much cortisol to do with OCD? So cortisol definitely has something to do with OCD, because when your mind is in an anxious state, it is releasing more cortisol. So because there's actually, when you're feeling anxiety, there's actually physical processes that are taking place behind the scenes. So, but if you're refusing to pay attention to the thoughts, the cortisol doesn't get released in those amounts in the future, So by controlling how you feel and choosing thoughts rather than paying attention to every thought that comes into your mind, you are going to be altering those levels. And that's what I say, that the mind has to adjust. When I say it has to adjust, it's adjusting those levels as well. The level of serotonin, the level of cortisol. So you're changing your mind on a physical level by how you're reacting on an emotional level. Okay, so I'm coming to the end of part 1. I promise you guys there's going to be a part 2 to this. So if you haven't heard your question in this part, please listen to part 2. I will release one today, which is Wednesday, March 15th, and then the next one tomorrow on Thursday. So you will hear both parts of the show. If you haven't subscribed to this channel, please subscribe. If you would like to start the recovery program, all the information is